You're listening to the Men After God podcast, the show dedicated to empowering men to navigate life's challenges through the lens of faith. In this episode, we'll tackle real-world issues that matter, from leadership and personal growth to marriage, fatherhood, and balancing career and family. Join us as we explore insightful conversations and practical advice to help you thrive as a man after God's own heart.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Men After God podcast, where we are investing in men so that they know how to love and lead their families and this generation and the next. I'm Dustin.
And I am Luke. And today we're going to be wrapping up our spiritual discipline series that today we're talking about giving. And we've talked about prayer. We've talked about worship, had a couple segments on worship. But today we're going to talk about something that either you're going to love the conversation and you're going to be inspired by the conversation and you're going to be like, oh man, this or you're going to be like, this stupid podcast. These guys, 1-star review. We're done. Like, no. Yeah. So it's a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it today. I've been kind of dreading it, kind of looking forward to it. So it's going to be some good stuff. So Dustin, hit us off. Where are we going?
Yeah, man. So we're talking about giving. Giving is so much more than just the action of taking money or funds from our wallet, our checkbook, our account, and transferring it over into a religious organization's account, whether that's through your church or maybe a nonprofit, which Men After God is a nonprofit, and would love to have your support. You can check out menaftergod.net to let us know about that, but that's not why we're having the conversation today.
Right.
But no matter where you're giving your money, giving is not about the transaction that's taking place. It's about the position of the heart of the person who's doing the giving, because it's about what you believe of God as to whether or not you can release those funds into whatever it is you're putting them into. It's an act of faith. It's one of the most tangible acts of faith that we can ever perform. I've had it said to me, now listen, I'm going to share some stories. Now, this doesn't mean you need to go out and do this. I'm telling you what was shared with me. So don't get this idea in your head and go tell your wife, Dustin at the Men After God podcast said I have to do this, okay? I was in Afghanistan, and we were in a tower at night, and there's 3 of us in there, and there wasn't much happening, so we were talking. It was a 12-hour shift. I mean, you got plenty of time. We played cards. We'd sit there and just have conversation, right? And Luke, this guy, was there, and we got to talking about Christianity, and he said something. We talked about giving, and he said something. He said, yeah, there was this one time I was just about broke. I had like $10 in my pocket, and that's really all I had. And I went to church that day, and the pastor had preached on giving. And so I put it in the plate and said, here, God, it's all I got. And so, yeah, if you're real, let's see it. And then he went on to share how that week he ended up finding a $10 bill in a parking lot. And then how he actually got a job after that. And things started to look up for him. And he attributed it back to his act of faith. I can't say God doesn't bless faith. We know that it takes faith to please God. But I'm also not telling you to go out and take your last bit of money and like that's what you have to do. And this is what's going to happen. There's no magic formula for this. But there is something to be said of the heart of a man who would say, God, I believe you. And I'm giving this to you because you'll do more with it than I will.
Yeah, that's good. Man, this conversation today, I can already tell is going to go longer than 20 minutes. So just drive slower.
We are going to try.
I want to touch base. And I think that I've got so many stories, but I want to encourage you. We're going to talk about some different stories that are our own and maybe other people's and illustrations, if you would, on this aspect. Because we're not talking about just being generous. Some of you are generous souls. You're generous with with everything, with your time and your energy and your service and all this. And I want to say that's great. But today we are talking about giving in a way where it is giving sacrificially, giving by faith. It's going to be, there's so much here. But I think I want to go back to, there is an aspect of this that is part of being the faithful steward. And so I know that right now I believe God will take care of me and provide for my needs, and he does, irrelevant of whether I give or don't give. I want to say this out. If you're not giving, God's still going to take care of your needs. But I do know there's promises in the Bible. There are several thousands of promises in the Bible in regards to the blessings of being generous and of giving, and there's so many. I'm not going to reference them all. We'll talk about a few. But I had a pastor one time tell me a story about he decided he was going to live by faith, and he just took his check and he gave his entire check to missions. Now, they were a family living check to check, right, in a Baptist church, and as a pastor, he's just living by faith, and it actually the lack of stewardship, and there was a faith aspect of he was just like, well, I'm gonna give, and God's gonna give back. And by the way, I don't want to spoil it for you, but the way he thought that God was going to work it out was not the way that it worked out. And it was a matter of there was other financial opportunities, some responsibilities, some things he was supposed to be doing with that money that really wasn't his money. Like, all money is God's, I know that, but there was an aspect of he gave somebody else's money away, the rent money, the responsibilities, the electric bill. So there's an aspect of stewardship aspect of like, hey, don't be foolish. But I will say this, if God's impressing on your heart to give, that is when you give and what you give. But don't be looking for this like, well, if I just give God my last $10, he's going to, no, he might provide, and he might just say, hey, thanks for the $10. So just kind of take it in stride, but take it in stride of faith. And I want to say this, and I'll pass it back. Yeah. When we're talking about giving today, I have seen people, R.G. Letourneau, if you know history and wealthy individual, his goal was to live on 10% and give 90% and ultimately achieve that goal, gave millions and millions and millions of dollars away. Well, I will say this, if you have millions of dollars, then there's an opportunity for giving, I'm sure. But most of us are so stingy with our $2 or our couple $100 that if you had $1 million, I don't think you'd give any either. Like, don't get me wrong. If you're not faithful in the little things, I don't expect you to be faithful in the big things. And by the way, this is something that's very relevant to my life in living by faith, giving in obedience. Just a great conversation today. But take it in stride. Hey, be a steward, be a wise steward, but also be a faithful steward. And be faithful to he that has called to you. So a lot there. So
absolutely. That's because that's a reflection of our relationship with God. Luke, before I move on, I have to also say it's easy to be faithful with your buddy's $10.
Yeah, Dustin, can I borrow $10?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, man, listen, I gave your money away, but I gave it to God. So it's okay, right? Yeah. Ooh. Oh, man. Anyways, but our relationship with God is what being a steward's about, because just like with a friend, if he gives you money, if he's your friend, you're going to want to take care of that and stuff. If your enemy gave you $10, you're going to be more inclined to spend it. I'm not telling you should, but we understand that when we are in a good relationship with someone, we steward things for them better. And part of that stewardship is really giving up. I love to be in control. I was an air traffic controller in the Marine Corps. I'm actually getting ready to jump in that job again. And being an air traffic controller, I learned the advantages to having control over a situation. I was able to tell pilots of multi-million-dollar aircraft what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And if they did not do it the way that I said, they got in trouble. And man, can that give you a complex? But that's a whole other issue, right? And that did for a while. My young 20s.
We'll be talking about pride in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, in our next episode. But I would come home and I would want some of that same control. Well, my wife was not a pilot, nor was she a multi-million-dollar aircraft. And she did not and does not respond well when I tried to tell her what to do, when to do it, and how to do it the same way I did to the airplanes. And when in my early 20s, she was happy to let me know that. But thankfully, I've grown from that. But I still enjoy control. We all enjoy control to an extent. And we enjoy control of our job. We enjoy control of our finances. We enjoy control of our schedule. Nobody likes someone impeding on your time if you were trying to accomplish something, right? And when we give, when we take our money, when we take our time, talents, treasures, however you want to phrase this, but that heart of worship to God in this conversation of stewardship is giving up control to find freedom. Mm-hmm. It's freedom from control. It's freedom from the fear that something's going to go wrong, if I trust God to be able to handle my finances, I've heard pastors say it for years, that I can live better off 90% than I can off 100%. And I've never spoke to someone who began tithing or giving in a great way who has said, man, I really wish I never did that. Now, I've heard people say, I wish I'd never given to that church or to that pastor because he embezzled it or because it was misused or I didn't like the way they did things. Okay, sure, fine. We can all have our opinions as to how the money was spent. But I've never heard anyone say, I wish I could go back and never have given anything over to the Lord. Mm-hmm. So we see God as our provider, and that's one of his names, Jehovah Jireh. And I don't know that I've went into a lot of detail over the last 6 months of my own personal life, and I'm not going to right now. But what I will tell you, God's helped me to understand him more as Jehovah Jireh than ever before, because I've been in a position to where, if he wasn't providing, no one was. And truthfully, that's where we're always at. However, it took being in a position of really need and him coming through in a way that only he can. And I know him better now because of it. But, there's other examples in Scripture of this level of faith, of trusting God when it doesn't make sense sometimes. And Luke, I know you know some great stories from the Bible of when they did this. One of my favorite ones, Peter. Why don't you expound on that one for him?
I actually don't know what you're talking about, so you have to carry away for it.
Oh, man.
Give me a start. Give me a better cue. That's not the story.
Peter did a lot of stuff. I got you. In the middle of the storm, Peter had to trust God.
Yeah. That's a good story.
Now he knows what
I'm like giving. Peter giving. He gave up his boats. Like, what am I talking? Where am I at?
I'm going to send Luke back to Sunday school, guys. His Sunday school teacher will be upset now. Call his pastor. I know him too.
Oh no. Well, I do think, when you think about the act of faith, we're talking about Peter. There's a storm around, and it, when it comes down to it, we so often are looking at circumstantial things of why we shouldn't live in faith or act in faith. And I think I'm in the wrong story. We might need to talk about this. Are we casting the nets or are we walking on the water? Because there's two good stories here.
There are. I was thinking of walking on the water.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's where I was too. I just want to make sure. So, as you can tell, Dustin and I are always in sync. I can read his mind. We finish each other's sandwiches. Anyway, it's
my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. The point is we're talking about living by faith, and it's so easy to live by sight. It's what we're used to doing. We want to live based on our experience and what we know. And here comes Jesus on the water. And Peter is the audacious version of Peter that he is. He's like, hey, if you're really Jesus, and I want to say maybe Peter didn't think he was Jesus and didn't think he was going to call to him. I don't know. But he's like, if you're really Jesus, ask me to come on the water. And Jesus is like, all right, do it. Right. And so Peter steps out on the water by faith. Now, I'll say this for Peter. We always make fun of Peter sinking. He is the only one that stepped out on the water. Yeah. So the rest of the disciples are in the boat. They're watching Peter. Peter gets out on the water, starts to walk on water. Now, here's what's really cool. Peter walked on water. Mm-hmm. I want you to get this, and this is not where I was going, but I'm going to go here anyway.
Yep, go.
Peter walked on water. I want you to imagine that moment of, whoa, I am walking on water with Jesus. As far as I know, he's the only person that's ever done it, that's documented, right? Yeah. And there is an act of, wow, I stepped out in obedience. God responded with provision and safety and all this stuff. And then he gets distracted by the winds and waves. And of course, he starts to sink. And Jesus pulls him out and says, Peter, where's thy faith? I want you to get this. You can be giving by faith. You can be living by faith. And then the storms are going to hit you and you might get distracted and you might start to sink. And I just want to get this. Jesus is still there for you, whether you're living by faith or whether you're living in fear. He's not going to let you drown, but he is going to let you learn in the process and communicate that. So I just want to, as we're looking at this, look at the opportunity, Peter stepping out of the boat. There's so much here for us to look at when it comes to faith. And by the way, I just want to say this in Dustin's defense, there's notes in front of me, literally in front of me, that tell me that that's my cue, and I missed it 100%. So welcome to podcasting.
I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to say anything. After we got done recording, but look, we went through this. We looked at it. Okay. Oh, man. So, just so you know, we do have notes for what we go through for the most part, and we try to stick kind of close to them. But that's why we end up going for 40 minutes. I think one of the questions you might have is, well, if giving's by faith, then why, what's going to happen with my giving? How is it going to be used? And what is going to come from it? You're looking for an understanding to your giving rather than giving just by faith. Oftentimes, when we have to give by faith, we actually don't know what the outcome is going to be, but we're trusting the one that does. Prime example, that's Abraham. And I know if you're watching on YouTube right now, you can't see me. I'm having some camera issues, but
we just upgraded our visual. You can't see Dustin. His face is gone. He has a face for radio, according to him.
Yes, sir. It's the voice in the clouds. And God spoke to Abraham probably in a similar fashion where he couldn't see him, just like you can't see me now. See, that's what this is for. Look at this.
Was good. That was a good redirect.
The dad jokes are rolling. All right. But God tells Abraham, go out from everything you knew, go out from your land and go into this land you've never been to, and I'm going to take care of you. And I guarantee Abraham did not understand about how that was going to happen. And just like us, when we give, we might not understand what's going to take place. Some of you may sit back and go, I don't even know if I understand why I should give. Can I tell you, make the choice to give by faith without understanding, and I believe you will be very impressed to see with what God does as an outcome of that. I'm not saying you're going to become a millionaire, but you're going to see God move in a great way.
Right.
But there's usually something that keeps us from doing that. Luke, talk about the things we resist while I try to get my beautiful mug back up here on YouTube.
Well, I think there's so many. And I think that, we're talking to a group of men. Many of you are faithful attenders, faithful givers. And I will say this, some of you are not, you're at this place where you're like, man, I know I'm listening to this and you're under conviction because you know that you should be giving, you know that you should be tithing and you should be consistent and you're playing the part of the giver, but you're just not a faithful giver because whatever reason you come up with. And I want you to take whatever reason that is, whatever reason you say, well, I can't afford it. And again, a lot of people are like, I don't know where it's going. I don't think that's a valid excuse. If you're faithfully attending church, you give in faith, God's going to do what he's supposed to do with that money. You don't got to worry about it. You just give faithfully. And by the way, I do believe in church accountability. Hear me when I'm saying the point is if you're in a place where you should give, you should give. But we look at the I won't give because I don't have enough, or you don't understand my budget. I'm working a couple of jobs. I want to say I totally get that, but I think we need to take a step back and look at it. One thing, oftentimes we use different limiting factors in maybe our obedience. Where we're like, well, I'm going to live by, the beautiful Dustin's back. So we're back. And you want to say, well, I would live by faith, but I can't because of ABC. Well, most of the time we don't live by faith because we're choosing to disobey. And sometimes it's not a faith issue, it's a discipline issue. Hear me out. We'll use I can't give to the church because I do my budget and we're always overdrawn. We're living paycheck to paycheck or whatever the case. And yet if we looked at your budget, if we were to pull your bank statements up for a bunch of you, if we look at your food and entertainment and what you're buying and DoorDash and Uber Eats and whatever else, there's a lot of opportunity where discipline would fix your faith problem. And hear me out. I want to make sure it's real clear. I believe you should give in faith. And by the way, part of giving in faith is giving before you see where it's all going to pan out. Because that's what the Bible asks us to give of our first fruits of our increase. You're not supposed to divvy out the budget and put God last. You're supposed to put God first, and then what the remainder is, God's going to stretch that. You say, well, does that mean I'm going to be a millionaire? That's not the goal. Does that mean I'm going to be able to pay off ABCD? No. The goal is obedience. Let God do the rest. You talk about the woman in the barrel with Elijah, and she bangs the barrel, and the meal is provided, or maybe it's the oil that the widow's pouring out. There are so many variations of how God is asking us to give, but most of the time we kind of use this block of like, well, I can't. It's not an I can't thing. It's an I won't thing. Now it becomes an act of disobedience, because biblically, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, it is sin. I can tell you what, I know there's a lot of Christians. In fact, I think the Barna poll is like 13% of Bible-believing Christian attendance, church attendance men say are only 13% are actual givers, which means that 87% of church attendance, faithful church attending people, are not giving faithfully. Now, if we could go through all of those excuses, it can be control, it can be discipline, it can be laziness, it can be lack of care, but it all comes down to it's impossible to please God without faith. So no matter what reason you put down of, hey, I can't give. I know. But that's when you have to. That's when you get to. That's when you, and it's, Dustin said this earlier. He said, I've never met someone who's giving faithfully that's regretted giving. I have met people that had been giving faithfully that stopped giving, that regret stop giving because they watch a transition. And you say, well, is God going to give me a bunch of money? God's going to provide in ways that money can't even compare to the Jehovah Jireh meeting the needs. You're like, whoa, I didn't even know I needed that. I didn't understand how that was going to work. And the opportunity there is you have to live in the faith. And I will say this, as you're giving, God's going to allow life to happen to test the giving, because you say, well, I'm financially faithfully giving. So I'm sacrificially giving. Good. It's great. There will come a point in your life where you will probably have the choice of, okay, am I still going to give when it doesn't make sense? Otherwise it's not faith. If it's always just there, then is that faith giving? It's obedience, just something to consider. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And let's make it real simple. In common language, secular language, you'll hear something what Luke's talking about as a scarcity mindset, that everything is scarce, so I have to keep everything to myself. Now, out in the leadership and the business world, they use a term, an abundance mindset. You have an abundance mindset and know that there's an abundance of resources, an abundance of money, abundance of all these different things. There's truth there, but here in the kingdom of God, where we are working for the Lord and not just for an almighty dollar or something of that nature. Not that, again, making money is a wonderful thing, and I think everyone should do it. Jason Brown, pastor out in California, has said to me one time, and it's been something on my mind often when this conversation comes up, money's been in the hands of the devil long enough. It's time for Christians to take it back. And so like when you hear statistics like Luke shared of 87% of church attending Christian men not financially giving, well, where's the money going? It's not they're not giving it to God. So what are they doing with it? See, they have a scarcity mindset, not a kingdom mindset. See, an abundance mindset says the world has all the resources that I need, and I need to go out into the world and utilize them for my benefit. The kingdom mindset says my God owns a cattle on 1,000 hills, and if I give to him, he says that he is going to bless, that he's going to provide for me. And again, it's not the millionaire, it's not the Ferrari, it's your needs are cared for. Because Philippians 4:19 says, and my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus, not according to your budget, according to his riches. Now that's faith. You have to choose to believe that. And can I tell you, I got into, if you watch one of our reels on YouTube, there is one of them that has about 20 some replies on it, because a guy with the name Atheistic Skeptic commented, and I decided, you know what? Let's chat. So we went back and forth, and he came down to the place where he said, we do not determine what we believe at all, period. And I mean, I brought in psychological terminology. I brought in scientific data and research to show that, yes, you can't flip a switch in belief truthfully without exploring evidence and different things of that nature and something causing a change in belief. That's not just how it works. We even believe in Christianity that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing come from the word. The word of God impacts the heart. The Spirit of God acts upon the heart, and there must be a choice to receive that salvation. Belief is the same thing. It's you have to choose to believe, because at one point, everyone in the world believed the earth was flat. But then they were presented with data and evidence, and they had to change their belief. But we live in a world today, years and years after that discovery coming out, where people still believe the earth is flat. You see, it's a choice. You have to choose what you're going to believe. Do you believe Philippians 4:19 or do you not? Do you believe in Jehovah Jireh or do you not? It's a matter of conviction. And I'm going to toss it back to Luke again. And Luke, just so we're clear, faith-filled giving in Scripture is the part we're on. If you go a couple down from there, this is your note on that one.
I have rewritten that in my mind several times. No, I want to say this. Faith-filled giving. The concept here is I want to make sure the understanding that the premise we're starting is that what you have is not yours anyway.
Yeah.
It's Amen. God's. What God has given you for talent, for money, for income, for career. I feel very, very blessed. I work in a career where God has met our needs and opportunities and all sorts of stuff. But it is God given, and God can give and He can take away. And so I have to start with what I have belongs to God, and I'm giving it back to Him to let Him do what He wills with it and let Him return based on His provision. So I want to talk about this. There's so many great conversations here, but we can talk about Abraham gives to Melchizedek, and literally this is where we get the whole tithe 10%. It was long before the law. This is Abraham giving to the high priest a 10% concept there. David in processing. So David has, if I want to get the passage right, I think it's 1 Chronicles 29. He's in the process of making creating a worship thing. He's going to sacrifice, and out of his own money, he buys the property there, the altar. And the concept there is, hey, I'm not going to give God something that has not cost me anything. I want you to get this. Your cross, take up your cross and carry Him. If your cross is not heavy, is it even a cross? If it is not, you think about what the cross was to Jesus. That was not because it was heavy and painful. It was because it was hard for Him to do mentally, because He was taking on the sins of the world. And we talk about like our cross. Well, that's my cross to bear, right? Well, I have news for you. Your cross to bear does not compare to the cross that Jesus is calling you to bear. Hear me out. There's opportunity here. So when we look at David giving, from his personal funds to make the purchase for sacrifice, and then we go to like the course, 2 Corinthians, we're talking about, Paul's talking about the Macedonian church, gave while facing severe trial and poverty. Paul says it overflowed into abundant joy and extreme generosity. I have never met a joyful giving, somebody who's a joyful giver who was not joyful. You say, that doesn't make any sense. Hear me out. Joyful givers are joyful. And you say, well, why are they joyful? Probably because they're faithful and they're walking with Jesus, and the fulfillment there, they don't, like you say, do they have to worry about, people only give because they don't have to worry about money. Hold on a second. People give in faith all the time. We just did an offering at our church this last Sunday, and it was such a blessing to watch so many members who have given for 60 some years in our church. Just again, going down to the altar, we were praying at the altar, and many of them had their offering envelope and their checkbook already filled out. And it was like, these are people that have sacrificed for years and they've watched God provide, and they just didn't want to miss out on this offering either. And some of us are sitting in the back like, oh man, well, sure hope they don't check my giving. No, hold on. It's not we don't want your money. No one wants your money. God wants your faithfulness. God wants your obedience. So a lot of opportunity there. And of course, Jesus, He didn't just give money. Jesus gave His life for us. He gave Himself for us, not under obligation, but into obedience to the Father. And that's the model. So he already modeled sacrifice. He became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Yep. I think I can tithe. I think I can be faithful.
I can give a little bit. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Dustin, I was going to say, you should jump into the next segment there. Why don't you? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you got it, man. So let's talk about, where do we start with this, though? If you're not giving at all, where do you start?
Oh, that's good.
We hear tithing, and that means 10%. That's wonderful. And there's arguments that could be made for, should we tithe, should we not tithe, whatever. Listen, if you're having an argument over tithing and you're not giving anything, just start giving something. Quit trying to use it. Well, I'm not going to tithe. God didn't. Okay, fine. You want to make the argument that God didn't ask you to tithe? Fine. But He asked you to give. He told you to give. So give. But how do we get started? First off, when our giving is pretty much automatic, it's kind of, we have it set up to just kind of get pulled out of our account. However, it's not something that's so automatic that we don't notice it. Yeah. And so if you're just getting started out, can I challenge you? I know how easy it is. Trust me. I love automation more than most. Don't automate it. Start out praying over your giving. You can write a check. You can give cash, swipe your card, give via the app or text in or whatever it is you do, but pray on it. And just for like a month or more, maybe 6 weeks, pray over your giving and just intentionally give before you set up some sort of automation. Okay. And make sure if you set it up for automation, ensure that you're at the point to where you notice it in your bank account. You notice it in your life. It's something you're like, okay, I gave that to God and I'm joyful about it. I'm good with it. I wanted to do that. I want to do that. I want to keep doing that. Luke mentioned earlier, and it's a popular Dave Ramsey term, you give, then you save, and then you spend. So you give first, not after. If you show us a budget and you're like, oh, I don't have any money for giving, but you're putting giving at the end of your budget, well, then we'll tell you, like Dave says, flip your budget. Give first, and then take care of the rest.
I would say from experience, that's it. When I've been challenged in the past, where this has been a spiritual battle for me several times in my life, where I'm like, I have to look at all the things and can I pay the bills?
Yeah.
The trick for me is literally I get paid on whenever that day is. You get another day on that morning. I give that day first because I know what's going to happen. If stuff's going to happen, we want to go to Red Robin on Sunday, and the auto deposit comes out in the rain, and eventually I'm like, well, now I don't have enough to give. No. If you just give it first before you even look at the budget, you look at the amount, and then I tithe off of that, and I don't got to think about it. And then there might be more giving and more opportunity, but that's a shortcut for me. We're like, hey, spiritually, I count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. First thing I do, because if I don't do it first, it becomes a secondary thing, and God should be second to nothing.
Absolutely. Because if you're not first, you're last. But anyways.
All right, Ricky Bobby, here we go. Right. This is the best podcast we've ever done. I just want to say that.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands. All right. Sorry, guys. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out right now.
Turn off the camera for one. Wow.
Oh, man. When you start giving, guys, you got a family, tell your kids about it. You should tell your wife, too. I agree. You need to give to God. You shouldn't start this without a conversation with your wife. Don't go give 10% of your income to the Lord and go tell your wife, hey, babe, check out what I did. Great thing to do, wrong way to do it.
Do it. Just do it together.
Yay!
Do it together. This is for you both to go to the altar. You don't steal that joy from her. This is a family thing. Do it together.
Yeah.
Good.
Tell your kids about it. Make sure they know you're giving. My wife and I, we talk about it. In fact, even today I saw, I said we automate it. We are at a different church than we were about a year ago, and we haven't set up the full automation yet. So we still give every month. Well, I love my wife, but there's sometimes, because we sit down to the budget, she executes on it. She'll forget to put the giving in, and she'll be like, oh, I got to put giving in for last month. Oh, okay, great. Do that. And she'll do it when she puts the giving in for the same month. And then today I happened to actually see, like, oh, hey, there's 2 transactions here. Hey, hon, what's going on here? What's this? And that's when she told me. She's like, oh, it's our giving. Our kids are around. I'm like, okay, hey, well, and we even talk about how much it is. I want them to know, like, hey, listen, we're, and I'm not being braggadocious by any means, but hey, we're giving. And this is a decent amount compared to our income right now. And so I want them to know these things. Talk to them about it. Ask them when they get money. Hey, have you tied that? Have you given to God from that? Have you saved? Have you invested that money? Okay, because they're going to spend it. Oh man, that one's easy.
Yeah.
But teaching them to give first. And lastly, before I toss it back to Luke, and Luke's going to go ahead and close this out because we are 10 minutes over our 20-minute timeline here.
Okay. It was the camera. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Give even if you're not there yet. Remember when Jesus was talking about the widows and the 2 coins that outweighed everyone else's abundance? Guys, it starts with obedience, not overflow. You say, Dustin, I just don't think I can give 10%. One of the greatest stories from the time I was pastoring was when a man told me, Pastor, I don't know that I can give 10% right now, but I've started giving 4%. Mm-hmm. And he did. And then a few months later, he told me, Pastor, I didn't even notice it was gone. So I increased it to 6%. And then over the course of about a year and a half, he finally came to me and said, I'm giving 10%, and it's not a big deal. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like 10% of his income a year and a half ago. It was 10% of current income. And it's amazing how God not just provides, but you got to understand something, y'all. It's what happens in your heart. Because you don't miss it, not because it's not there, but because you realized you didn't need it, and God's using it in his kingdom. So I'm going to toss over to Luke, close us out. And guys, thanks for this great conversation today. And if you ever have questions on tithing, giving, or anything, we're always happy to address them. You could send them in to us at info@menaftergod.net or reach out to us at facebook.com/menaftergodpodcast. Luke, close us out for the day.
Yeah, I don't want to say this. I think that there's two things I want to cover. There's an aspect of this. Dustin is talking to you like we're kind of going through this series, and this is just in line. But Dustin's coming from a place of unemployment. I want you to hear this out. And I know this is not, he doesn't love this. He's going to, he's going to make fun of me later for it. I'm sure probably make fun of my mustache that I currently have. I don't know what it is.
Make fun
the concept
of fire, I don't know. Something.
You've got a man who's walking the walk and talking the talk, who's unemployed right now, who's doing different things to make sure bills are paid and things are met. It would be really easy for Dustin to say, "Oh, not right now though, Lord, just when I get a job, I'll start tithing again because we'll have excess." No. This is obedience when excess makes no sense. This is obedience first. And by the way, I'm encouraged by that, challenged by that. There's so much more in this. I want to tell this story and we'll be done. I heard the story of a motivational person one time, and he would use this story. He was a very wealthy individual, but he'd go back to his roots when he really wasn't doing well, and when he had nothing, and he would tell this story kind of as a motivational story for people to get involved and give to God. And he'd go to different churches and events, and he'd say, "Yeah, I was struggling. I had $20 to my name. I went into the service one time, kind of meandered in there, and I was there, and I felt impressed as the offering plate passed to give everything I had left in my life was this $20, and I gave all that I had, and God used that to change my life and brought all this opportunity and jobs and employment and money. And now I'm wealthy because I gave everything I had to that offering plate." And he would tell the story all the time. Like it was like the invitational to, you need to give everything you have to God for the work or whatever thing he was hyping up. And in the process of it and telling that story, a lady raised her hand at the end. It was kind of the wrap up of this session. And she's like, "Hey, I just got to ask a question. You tell the story, like you just say, like, it was your last $20. It was everything you had. You had nothing left. You gave it to God. You gave everything you had left, and God blessed that." He's like, yeah, that's the story. Like, I believe that if you give everything you have, God can bless that. And she said, "Well, that makes sense." And I just want to clarify, you only had the $20. You gave that. That's everything you had. And you're saying that we should give everything we have. And you gave everything you had, and God blessed that. And we should too, right? And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I can understand when it was $20, but would you do the same today?" And I want to just highlight this. For some of us, we can talk about the past sacrifice where it's like, "Oh yeah, I at one time I gave money and God blessed. And by the way, when I was in college, I didn't have much to give, but I gave what I had and God blessed it." That's great. I think you should go get your story today though. Yeah. I believe that, and I can go back to my stories from my parents and my family and God's provision when I was younger, but where are my children, my wife, where's my testimony today of, hey, I gave when it made no sense. I gave in obedience under the impression of the Holy Spirit, and God took care of me. And it may not have been the big check and the bonus, and all. It might be, but that's not the point. The point is, what can God do with your obedience? And I'll say this, I say it all the time: don't let what you think you can't do keep you from doing something. Everybody starts at start. You're like, "Man, I don't think I can give 10%. You don't understand. Then start somewhere. Start with $100 bill, because if you're broke, $100 bill will mean something. Take that down to the altar, pray over it, drop it down. It's something. And by the way, it can be the first step of obedience that triggers a lot of obedience and momentum of what God can do in your life, in your family. And it might be exactly what is the hinge point of literally you on the verge of, am I walking in faith, doing what I should, or am I not walking in faith? Because without faith, it's impossible to please God. If you want to be walking with God, this is a non-negotiable. But it's for everybody. I don't think there's anybody that's not dealing with this in the opportunity of, hey, what is God asking of you today in regards to your faith?
Absolutely. Luke, fantastic, man. That was wonderful. Guys, giving is a heart matter. You have to decide who God is and what God's done in your life. And is he worthy of your heart? I can tell you emphatically the answer is yes, but it's something you have to choose. So guys, whether it's your church, a nonprofit organization, a parachurch organization, wherever God's leading you to give, I do believe it's good. I support the local church. I think you should be giving to your local church. Let me say that emphatically. Start, give, don't wait. again, the sentiment from people who give is never, I wish I hadn't started. It's, I wish I'd done it sooner. Or if someone started and stopped, I wish I'd never stopped. Don't be that person. Set the example for your wife, for your children. And guys, this ends our spiritual discipline series. I hope it's been a blessing to you. I'm excited. Next week, we're going to be talking, have something around the topic of Mother's Day. So if you haven't figured it out, Mother's Day is coming up. And while Men After God's not going to be producing a great Mother's Day gift that you can put out there, we will have some recommendations on how you can be the husband and father to the woman God has given you to celebrate on Mother's Day. So we're excited for the conversation, looking forward to connecting with you all. And don't forget to tune in on Mondays for the continuing in the Proverbs Bible study. Verse by verse, we have Kenny Sexton joining us the month of May. Can't wait for you guys to hear his voice. With all that said, I hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy being the man God has made you to be.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Men After God podcast. We hope today's discussion has encouraged and equipped you on your journey. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, or would like to partner with us, please reach out at support@menaftergod.net. Stay connected with our community by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/menaftergodpodcast. For deeper engagement, join our group at facebook.com/groups/menaftergod and connect with other men pursuing God's heart. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more men striving to live faithfully. Until next time, stay strong in the faith and continue pursuing after God.